Why do we have to learn about happiness? Why do we have to take a course on happiness? Surely we already know what makes us happy, and why don't we just do what feels natural? And the answer is no, we don't know what's good for us. Mainly because we've created a world that we now live in that is not what we were designed for. We evolved to be cave people, hunters and gatherers. We've now got this complicated world of social media and cars and mortgages and careers. So your brain doesn't know what's good for you anymore. So a really easy example of this is food. We're programmed to eat as much as we can when we get the chance in case food runs out, particularly fatty foods, ice cream, chocolate, meat, all these things we know are high value foods, and we want to maximize the amount we can have. And then of course all that happens is we get too fat and we get lethargic, and it's bad for us. So your brain, when it's saying eat chocolate, eat it while it's there, eat chocolate while you can, it actually doesn't really know what's good for us. And I want to give you a whole load of other examples where your brain actually misleads you. Your brain will make you less happy if you let it, and you have to consciously override what your brain tells you to do. So another thing your brain will do is it'll say, I don't need that much sleep, I can stay up late, I'll be fine. But you won't. Your brain does not know what's good for you. Don't do what your brain tells you all the time. And then your brain tells you that if you had more money, it would make you happy, because clearly money in a sort of caveman type of way is going to make you more powerful and safer. So our brain thinks that more money will make us happy. But of course, we've already looked at that. We've seen that the more you have, the more you want, and that really it's a road to nowhere. And then your brain says, don't give anything to anyone else. Keep your resources in case you need them. But we know that giving things to other people makes them happy. I'm going to explore this in more detail later, but there's research which shows we get more happiness from spending money on other people than we do spending it on ourselves. But our brain doesn't know that. Our brain says, don't give it away. And there are some really surprising things, like our brain thinks that when we're at college that good grades will make us happy. But actually, people who get good grades are not any more happier than the ones who get bad grades. And then your brain tends to focus on problems to be solved rather than gratitude for things that are good. Because if it's good, you don't need to worry about it. But if it's bad, then that is something you need to worry about, because you need to fix that, you need to solve that problem. So our brain tends to focus on negative things, which makes us less happy. Our brain also tends to focus on the past and the future, not the present. So it's always thinking, oh, that happened yesterday and I'm not happy with that. Or what's going to happen tomorrow? I'm worrying about that presentation that's coming up. Will it be okay? And yet happiness is to be found much more in the present. Again, I'll explore this later, but our brain is not good at focusing on the present. So as soon as we've bought the nice ice cream, we're thinking about what we're going to do next, to the point where we might easily forget to enjoy the ice cream. We might eat it without even noticing, because we're already thinking about the next thing. Another example of our brains not being good for us is that we tend to put off anything that's difficult or unpleasant, because our brain thinks, oh, you can always do it next week. And that reduces our happiness, because then we have difficult or unpleasant things hanging over us. And of course, we achieve less if we put things off, and that also leads to unhappiness later. So for a couple of reasons, procrastination makes us unhappy, but that's what our brains do if we let them. So our brains mostly focus on negative emotions rather than positive emotions. Our brains are really good at worrying or feeling guilty or feeling angry or hate or jealousy. And all these emotions are fairly useless in the modern world. If you take, for example, jealousy, when we were cave people, it was probably a good idea to think, oh, he or she's got a bigger cave than I have. I want that person's cave, or I want their mammoth bones that they've got. But in the modern world, jealousy doesn't help. It just makes you unhappy. It doesn't help you to get what the other person's got. So perhaps a tiny bit of jealousy to spur you into taking some action. But after that, forget jealousy. Think about, how am I going to have a life that's more like that person's? So jealousy is really a caveman emotion. Looking at other people on Facebook or Instagram and feeling jealous about their lives doesn't make us any happier. So a lot of these emotions that our brain has evolved over millions of years do not contribute to our happiness in the modern world. So your brain doesn't know how to make you happy. And if you just naturally follow your brain, you will end up less happy than you could be. So what we're going to look at in this section really is, what must we do to program our brain for maximum happiness? And that's what we're going to get into in the following videos.